Lil Ern here.
Kaine right here.
From Unfiltered. And as everybody knows, we've been talking about this, for the past week?
For the past, month.
Exactly.
Yes.
Our guest today, finally, we are sitting down with Frank Meeink. Welcome, Frank. Did I pronounce your last name?
Just
Meeink.
Just like the animal or the
like
coat.
Stole.
Yeah,
Like
or
a stole. Okay.
That's another thing that my repertoire I can use now. Stole, yes.
As everybody knows, we were talking about the fact that, Frank, you have a new book out. Just take me back. What is this book called? Tell me a little bit about this.
It's the Autobiography of Recovering Skinhead, and it's kind of a twist on words with the recovering part. Once you say someone's in recovery, you kind of think they might relapse, but to be honest, there's no way I could ever relapse back into being a skinhead. It's physically, spiritually, mentally impossible. So the recovery part is that I later on do get more into drugs and alcohol and recover, and am recovering from that. So
now we're going to get into this. Let me just let everybody know, Amazon.com. I know a lot of you are online right now. Open up a new tab. Go to Amazon. The book is available now. It's been very well reviewed. Check it out. Amazon.com. Again, the name of the book, Autobiography of a Recovering Skinhead by Frank Meeink. And if you're going to look it up by last name, let me spell that for you. Meeink. Got to get that out. We'll do it again at the end of this. You know how we do.
It's a weird last name. So
now, autobiography. Biographies cover everybody's aspect of their lives, and you really take this back from the beginning, before you even knew what a skinhead was.
Right.
And take me back. Where did you grow up at?
I grew up in South Philly, right by the stadium, so right by the Phillies and the Eagles and the Flyers and the Sixers. So I grew up right in kind of the heart of South Philly, in a little Irish neighborhood there on 2nd Street. So.
Oh, and would you consider your life to be middle class? What was your home life like?
It was definitely lower middle class. I remember at sometimes, especially with my dad and my dad's section, but being on public assistance. So I definitely would say the bad thing is back then. Well, nowadays you can use a little card. They give you a little food stamp card. Back then they gave us the big booklet of neon money. Remember that? And you had to rip it out and it just screamed, "Hey, I'm poor. Look at me," And I used to pull them things out at the store. And every time I go in, the hottest girl in the neighborhood would come in right behind me. And what am I going to do? I got to go get something else. And I get out of line and wait until there was nobody in the store and then pull out the food stamps. So I definitely say I grew up lower middle class. So.
Okay.
Didn't know it though, you don't realize that stuff as a kid.
The only kid? The only child?
I was the only child for a long time until my mom got remarried to my stepfather.
Okay.
Now, I was talking to people in the office today about the fact that you were coming in. It's almost like people don't get to meet astronauts. People don't get to meet, genetic engineers all the time. People don't get to meet skinheads all the time. So when I let people know I was going to be sitting down with a former true blue skinhead, for lack of a better term, people, are fascinated. They've got a lot of questions. One of the questions that people were asking was this indoctrinated to you? That's why I was asking about your family life. Were you? I read the autobiography. I already know the answers to a lot of these questions, but people, I think, had this idea that all skinheads are indoctrinated by their parents, and it was forced down upon them, and that's not really the case.
No. Growing up in South Philly, again, we all grow up in these little segregated neighborhoods, but we're also right next to each other.
Right.
We play sports with each other. We do these things. So it wasn't, I was always taught to stay out of the other neighborhoods, and that's Cambodian neighborhoods, the black neighborhoods, the Italian neighborhoods, even though I was half Irish, half Italian. Being from the Irish neighborhood, that's what I am. So that was always taught to us, but it wasn't like a hatred thing. It was always just more of an us-them, We played them in sports. It wasn't until I moved to my dad's neighborhood up in West Philly, Southwest Philly, and some of you guys in West Philly, born and raised on a playground where I spent most of my days. It's a rough neighborhood, man, and even Fresh Prince had to get out of there, and I got moved into that neighborhood, and it was tough. It was all black, and the white kids that they live in the neighborhood, we fought all the time. I mean, consistently, every day. When I changed schools and I go to an all-black school, Pepper Middle School, anyone ever wants to go to it, it's right by the airport, so in Philly. But, I went to this school, and I went to school every day with the feeling, not, oh, I hope I have a good day at school. I went to school every day saying, man, I hope I don't have to fist fight today. I hope someone doesn't start something with me today. What's going to break off today in school?
It's interesting, Frank, in reading in your story. Just exactly what Lil Ern talked about. It didn't feel like there was anything indoctrinated as far as like racism in your family. This felt like, you know, being a part of the skinhead was a way to connect to other people, a way to sort of like, you know, be accepted.
Right.
Can you speak a little bit about that?
No, yeah. When I went up to Lancaster, Pennsylvania for the summer after I went to that all-black school. Just a skateboarder kid, you know, kind of a rebel-rousing skateboarding kid a little bit. And my cousin was a skinhead, and he hung out with skinheads. And when they used to all sit around and drink, and they were all 16, 17-year-old guys, they were cool to me. I was 14. Yeah. And then they would start talking about, hey, what's it like growing up down in the city? Because none of them, they're all from Amish country with the horse and buggies, you know? And I used to love when they asked me about that stuff. See, because if you want to psychoanalyze it now, is my parents, and this is not a sob story, but my parents never asked me when I came home from school, how was school today, son? How was your weekend with your friends, son? They just didn't do it, just the way it was. These guys that felt like they were fine, someone was finally asking me, how are you? How are you doing today? And I love that. I love being around them guys.
Now, I would think, and correct me if I'm wrong, kids are kids. Kids, you know, experiment with drugs, sex, and other things, and movements, and
drugs and sex
at the same time, and other things. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, you got to talk these kids anyways. My question is I would think that some people, as you started getting involved in the skinhead movement, probably thought, oh, it's just a phase, this too shall pass like everything else. And you know, kids pick up marijuana, but they don't become full-fledged heroin addicts.
Right.
Kids sneak drinks, they don't become alcoholics. And not to belittle or diminish or minimize stepping into the skinhead realm, but I would think, you know, maybe some people might look at it and 2 weeks later realize, this is not for me. This is not what happened to you. You went all the way.
I went all the way. And, you know, I went to the point that it really gave me purpose in life. I had a calling. And then, you know, as I get more and deeper into it, I start going to Bible studies for this stuff. I was going to go learn how to hate through the Bible. And now you're telling me that God wants me to believe this. I'm preparing to be one of God's soldiers and put wrath on the world that he does not like anymore, you know? And man, there's no more better general than someone telling me God is giving you this purpose.
How do you refute the Almighty?
And you know, being born and raised Irish Catholic and making all my sacraments, going to these Bible studies, I'm learning the Bible completely different than the priest and the sisters ever taught me at Catholic school and catechism. So I remember questioning it, and they said, well, you've been lied to your whole life. Look at where you are. We're trying to reveal the truth to you. And then you go out and you shoot guns during Bible studies.